Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you my Pisces November 2018 horoscope forecasting. Yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, first thing up is, well, as far as November goes, the Sun will be in Scorpio from the 1st until the 22nd. So the ninth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, there could be a strong concentration of power, focus, and attention on in-laws, grandchildren, traveling abroad, abstract thinking, philosophy, higher education, religion, publishing, and the law. And given that this is Scorpio energy, this could be done perhaps with a lot of Scorpio-like emotional intensity, resourcefulness, guile, going through subterfuge and superficiality, and perhaps especially in matters pertaining to in-laws and grandchildren and any people that could be ninth house related. Now, also done with a lot of Scorpio-like incisiveness, a little with power, control. Could be done very secretively and surreptitiously, and also with a lot of willful and intractable energy, and done in a very passionate manner, very intense manner. So anyway, well, the next thing up, as far as November goes, the Sun will be in Sagittarius from the 22nd until the 30th. So the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, there could be a strong concentration of power, focus, and attention on the dominant parent, which is often the father, authority figures, perhaps attaining authority or authority, a position in authority, one's public image, reputation, success, social status, one's stature in life, standing in the community, and even notoriety, fame, and recognition. And given this is Sagittarius energy, this may be done with a lot of exuberance, enthusiasm, expansive energy, a lot of ebullience, a lot of positivity, a lot of seeing that glass half full, so to speak, instead of empty, a lot of optimism and even effervescence, but also be careful about self-righteous energy as well. That, I mean, if you have certain ideas in terms of matters, things you might be talking about with authority figures or matters of your career or what have you, anything 10th house related, just remember that to be philosophical and that others' opinions can count as well. Now, also, a lot of this energy can be done, be a very adventurous way, and even a lot, and there might be a lot of things you might be doing outdoors with people in this, in your 10th house sphere. And anyway, and it might be where your career, something with your career, you might be more, there might be traveling abroad, or at least a greater propensity for this more so than usual, and doing things outdoors that may be career-related activities with the dominant parent, which is often the father, and authority figures as well, people prominent in your career. Anyway, next thing up is there will be a new moon in Scorpio on November 7th, so the ninth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. In some cases, this could be a new start of a new Scorpio, a higher education course. It could be something, for example, with locksmithing, doing something with astrology, supernatural, the occult even, something... maybe starting to study something to be a surgeon, doing something, anything that could be, I mean, another example could be you start maybe going to school to be a coroner or embalming, anything that could be a Scorpio related. Now, given that, I mean, also another way this can manifest, this could be a new, in some cases, a new Scorpio in-law or grandchild. It could be a Scorpio Sun, Moon, or Ascendant person, or simply one that embodies Scorpio-like characteristics. In the grandchild situation, I mean, there's obviously, it very well will be, I mean, it'll be a Sun and Moon in Scorpio anyway if this person is born at this time, of course, but an in-law could be a different story because that person has already been alive for some time. So you understand what I'm saying. Now, Another thing, too, is that this could be a new period of going through subterfuge and superficiality with an in-law grandchild. If there's any phoniness going on with any of these people, or even in some religious congregation, anything ninth house related, you have a greater chance right now of beginning to be able to probe and see through duplicity. Now, also, it could be a time where you might begin to, speaking of probing, it could be the start of investigating something ninth house related, such as something connected with a college, university, something perhaps at a religious congregation. It could be an in-law, a grandchild, anything that could be ninth house related. And also it could be a start where you may begin a long distance journey, going into some place you see very mysterious, and I'm not saying the Bermuda Triangle necessarily, people, but you understand what I'm saying, something that could be very uncharted territory for you, and perhaps something new might be started on that's publishing, that you may begin to work on something that will be published at a later point in time, something Scorpio related, such as something with horror, supernatural, macabre, something with mystery, something that could, or maybe even something that is related to death, but something that could be Scorpio related. So anyway, next thing up, there will be a full moon in Gemini on November 23rd, so the fourth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, well, a lot of cases you might simply become tired, full, exasperated, and an overly mercurial, super loquacious, vacillating, two-faced, even superficial or gossipy. It could be a family member, someone you feel close to home with, the less dominant parent, which is often the mother. This could be a time, too, where you really put in perhaps a lot of this full emotional energy into really being very, very inquisitive in regarding your roots and ancestry. And also, in a lot of cases, this could be the completion or culmination of some home-related matter that required a lot of dexterity. Perhaps it could have be something such as working on a vehicle or refrigeration mechanics, or something of communication that may have ended at home. It could have been something that you were doing some writing on at home. And also, a lot of there could be very strong emotional need, perhaps to have variety and really in communication, express versatility at that latter part of life. And because, I mean, Gemini energy, of course, could be averse to anything that's monotonous. And anyway, and also in a lot of cases, this could be like some kind of unveiling or revelation, perhaps of somebody in your ancestry or roots that you felt that maybe you saw from doing your research might have been somewhat superficial, or just overly, I mean, somebody that was just very changeable or vacillating, something of that nature. So anyway, next thing up. Mercury will be in Sagittarius. It will be retrograde from the 17th until the 30th, and the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, this could be about having a lot of candid, very voracious, truthful conversations with the dominant parent, which is often the father, authority figures. You might find yourself doing a lot more talking about sports, religion, philosophy, with perhaps people that are prominent in your career. And as I've stated previously, Mercury can also be about siblings. It's not just about communication. This could manifest perhaps in Sagittarius siblings figuring in prominently in your public image, your reputation, attaining success, notoriety, recognition. And they may be Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant people, or simply ones that embody Sagittarius-like characteristics. Now, and also, too, given it's going to be retrograde for about half the month, you may be reviewing some religious, philosophical discussions that you may have had with people that are connected with the 10th house. You may also find yourself laying down the law, so to speak, with authority figures, with perhaps the dominant parent, which is often the father, and somebody that may be prominent in your career or has played a role in your success one way or the other. So anyway, next thing up. Venus will be in Libra. It will be retrograde for about half the month, and it will be in the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, I mean, this could be about perhaps valuing things, being equitable in terms of your sexual partner and a shared resources situation. Hold on a minute, people. Sorry about that, I'm back again. Anyway, and also requiring equilibrium, equal give and take in terms of emotional, moral, or even monetary support. Now, in some cases, this could be a Libra relationship. It could be a Libra sun, moon, or ascendant person, or simply one that embodies Libra-like characteristics, might figure in prominently in helping making you go through a major transformation or change, or even dealing with a crisis. And a lot of this, whether this person is that beneficial or not, of course, could be dependent on the aspects that are made by this to other astrological points in your natal chart. Now, also, this could be a lot of balanced, equal spending, even spending on 8th house matters, dispersing payments evenly on a number of 8th house matters. Perhaps it could be involved with insurance or taxes or what have you. And if you're into astrology, perhaps even that, or if you're, I mean, in some isolated cases, if you're seeing psychologists, it could be connected with that as well. But also, too, given that it's going to be retrograde for about half the month, this could be about getting some back payment and something 8th house related. It could be over some kind of insurance matter, or what you see as a fair payment, or even over an inheritance perhaps that may have been delayed, which you see as a fair, equitable payment perhaps. And you might allow you to, maybe that money might really help you in terms of maybe even paying something else off that could be 8th house related. So anyway, and it could be in some cases the return of a Libra relationship that could be actually very deep. And it could be it could be a Libra sun, moon, or ascendant person, or simply one that embodies Libra-like characteristics. So anyway, next thing up is Mars will be in Aquarius as far as November goes, from the 1st until the 15th. So the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Now, of course, I mean, this can manifest in a multitude of ways. Some cases, this could be about maybe becoming angry at bizarre, unusual, or idiosyncratic behavior from someone prominent in your private life. It could be an aunt or an uncle. It could be someone you may be having a clandestine affair with. This could also manifest in some cases of having very bizarre, unusual private battles, or becoming, it could be fights with friends, maybe over matters connected with solitude or seclusion if you're staying inside too much, or if maybe even in some cases it could be over maybe your mental health that maybe they're concerned about, or maybe you're concerned with theirs in some cases. And also a lot of humanitarian selfless energy perhaps into those less fortunate than yourself, such as the hungry, impoverished, the homeless, and the oppressed. And also, now, this could be about very spontaneous, unpredictable, angry outbursts can lead to one self-undoing at this time. Now, in some cases, I mean, isolated, very remote. I mean, the 12th house is the house of mental illness. This could also manifest in some kind of maybe onset or some mental illness that's associated with anger perhaps, and it's kind of like it could be very erratic and sporadic given its Aquarius energy. Or if you actually have one, the few of you that may have one that are seeing this video, it could be where maybe it's reaching a boiling point with you, and you're maybe starting to have some unpredictable, acrimonious type situations or outbursts because of this, out of perhaps frustration out of this, because maybe it's a source of consternation or what have you. So anyway, next thing up. Mars will be in Pisces as far as November goes, from the 15th until the 30th. So the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, Well, understand me, Mars can be about surgery in some case, especially if this is with the actual first house in one's natal chart. This could manifest perhaps in getting some surgery, Pisces related, something with perhaps with the feet or the toes perhaps, or maybe incurring some kind of cuts to the feet or the toes or due to some kind of accident. Pisces energy, of course, could be rather careless and clumsy and not always seeing everything in front of them, so be especially careful and prudent during this time. You might feel yourself having more of a surf fight and abundance of energy at this time, and perhaps even to start Pisces new beginnings, such as something with poetry, dancing, something with the water, such as oceanography, something with chemistry, photography, even the metaphysical, which could include astrology. Now, also at this time, you might find yourself becoming angry at perhaps a deceptive, duplicitous, indolent, apathetic, nebulous person from your early childhood, or maybe somebody that might have had a strong impact on your outlook on life, and it might even be yourself to some degree at this time. And also you might find yourself perhaps trying to fulfill some sexual fantasy if you're unattached at this time, perhaps with somebody from your early childhood, someone that might have been very factored in strongly with your outlook on life, and maybe even making first impressions on others. So anyway, well, the next thing up is Jupiter will be in Scorpio as far as November goes, from the 1st until the 8th. So the 9th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. Well, in some cases, this could, as I've talked about previously, as far as Jupiter goes, it can be paradoxical. It's very strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. In some cases, this could expand perhaps surreptitious, nefarious, manipulative behavior, perhaps from an in-law, a grandchild. It might be somebody at a religious congregation or a college, university, a foreigner, someone you meet through traveling abroad. And also, though, this could be very fortuitous, perhaps for the transformation maybe of some religious belief or philosophy at this time. And also about going beyond subterfuge and superficiality with 9th house people, such as in-laws and grandchildren, and maybe even it could even be people, maybe foreigners, people you meet through traveling abroad. And also this could be very positive perhaps for unlocking secrets, unveiling secrets, maybe about false doctrines at this time. If somebody is trying to preach something to you that you find a doctrine or what have you that is fallacious and you feel it is, and you start digging deep and looking into it, it could be very, you have a better chance of actually unveiling any kind of fraud perhaps connected with that. Now, also, this could be about very strong hope in doing something Scorpio-like as far as a higher education course may go, such as something with locksmithing or doing something connected with astrology they call supernatural. It could be doing something embalming, working as studying to be a coroner, or something that could be a Scorpio related. Surgery, perhaps working as a surgeon. So anyway, well, the next thing up is looking at this. This could also, I wanted to say one more thing about Jupiter and Scorpio in the 9th house being emphasized and highlighted. It could also be manifesting maybe having a profound philosophy about higher education, perhaps, that maybe it doesn't, for example, that it doesn't always have to be through college, perhaps, and just educating yourself could be one way. And it's really so anyway, the next thing up is Jupiter will be in Sagittarius as far as November goes, from the 8th until the 30th. So the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Anyway, at this time, there could be very strong exuberance, perhaps in traveling abroad in one's career. Now, as I've talked about before, the Jupiter can be very paradoxical. It's very strongly benign and benevolent, but could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. In some cases, this could expand foolhardy, self-righteous, over-optimistic, even reckless perhaps behavior from someone you may know that's prominent in your career or has played a role in your public image, getting you notoriety. It could be the dominant parent, which is often the father, an authority figure. This could be, and also maybe in matters in your dealings with them as well. So it's important to be careful as far as that goes at this time. Now, also, too, this could be very fortuitous for publishing something Sagittarius related, such as something with sports, translation, could be helping someone learn a foreign language, something with religion, even something that could be Sagittarius related, such as something connected with exploration, adventure, traveling. Hold on a minute, people. Sorry about that, I'm back again. Now, anyway, and also, too, looking at this, I mean, it could just be very, very positive for career-related endeavors at this time in general, and perhaps getting exposure, notoriety, or recognition at this time, and doing this with a lot of Sagittarius, like exuberance and enthusiasm and optimism and hope. So, and a lot of expansive energy. So anyway, it could also expand humor in doing things as far as in your dealings with 10th house people, such as authority figures, the dominant parent, and also people prominent in one's career. Anyway, next thing up. Saturn will be in Capricorn still, so the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, well, you might find yourself dealing with more restrictions, limitations in matters with stepchildren, if applicable, with friends, with acquaintances. It might be making you feel very despondent and melancholy. In some cases, you might find yourself dealing, taking care of a sickly or debilitated stepchild, or it could be a friend, an acquaintance, someone you know well, maybe in a group, club, or organization. And it could be somebody and it could be something Capricorn related, such as something with the knees, the bones, or the joints, and it might be making you feel really dejected, very sad at this time. Could also manifest in some cases as working laboriously on a government type, maybe position, or something that could be Capricorn related, which is a goal or aspiration. It could be something connected with dentistry, for example, even information technology, accounting, something with business or politics or the government. Now, also, too, this could manifest in getting structure and discipline in your life as far as your goals are, as far as your aspirations go, and also maybe dealing as far as your aspirations go and your goals at this time. So, anyway, well, the next thing up is Uranus will be in Taurus as far as November goes, from the 1st until the 6th. So the 3rd house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, well, this could be about perhaps unusual, persistent, stubborn siblings, cousins, neighbors at this time. This could be also about the formulation of new financial ideas that might maybe they're done perhaps with a neighbor. It could be a cousin or a sibling perhaps, and it could be also something that you can really communicate about very strongly, and it could be something too that might be you're talking about Uranus and Taurus. I mean, this could be about really ingenuity in terms of really making maybe some kind of money, but being able, and also at the same time being able to spread this word through your communications at this time very well, perhaps. But it could also reflect some cases very erratic and sporadic thinking and communications. And at this time too, Taurus friendships might figure more prominently in your communications at this time. Perhaps they could even be maybe someone from your early education. It could be a Taurus sun, moon, or ascendant, or simply people that embody Taurus-like characteristics. And also, this could be about your about valuing maybe friendships that are about valuing communications at this time. So, Anyway, it could be a time where you might be you might even be somewhat inventive or ingenious as far as something connected with communications at this time. It could even be simple with computers or anything that could be communication related. So anyway, and ideas might come very spontaneously and extemporaneously at this time as well. Anyway, next thing up, Uranus will be in Aries as far as November goes, from the 6th until the 30th. So the second house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, you might find yourself really dealing with perhaps unpredictable, volatile outbursts from people that you might generate money with. You might be more susceptible to financial fluctuations at this time than usual. Your own finances could be very erratic and sporadic at this time. Now, Aries friendships, they could be Aries, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant people, or simply ones that embody Aries-like characteristics, might play an integral role in terms of your values, your self-worth, your self-esteem, and whether this is beneficial or to your detriment. A lot of that could be dependent on the aspects that are made to astrological points in your chart. And anyway, at this time too, it could be you might be adopting some kind of unusual values, but on the, one end, on a very positive, it might be a time where you might be making, generating income or making money through doing something Uranus. Like it could even be through innovation, through something that's very innovative and very pioneering. It could be through something connected with computers, electronics, aerospace, astronomy, even rocket science in some cases. So anyway, well, the next thing up is Neptune will be in Pisces still. So the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. Well, Pisces can be susceptible to duplicity as it is in deception, but might even be more so during this time. Also to guard against excessive alcohol, drug use at this time. You might find yourself, your vitality and energy might be dissipating to some degree during this time. But at the same, and especially if this is actually hitting the ascendant or it's conjunct one's sun in one's natal chart, if it's the moon, then it could be more of your emotional energy might be dissipating, dissolving. You might be going through a little bit more of an emotional letdown at this time and feel emotionally drained. Now also too, in some cases this could manifest in Neptune like new beginnings, such as doing something with photography, chemistry, poetry, working as a medium or clairvoyant, or even an anesthesiologist, something that could be Neptune related. And it could be a time too where looking at people from your early childhood might be rather nebulous and unclear, and even you may come across that way more so than usual. It could be about your outlook on life might be somewhat confused more so than usual at this time. And be careful and guard against perhaps a Neptune-like illness, such as something that could be chemical related. Doesn't necessarily have to be through recreational drugs or alcohol. It could be an inadvertent chemical assimilation, such as radon in the home, something with the feet or the toes, or even the lymphatic system, something that could be Neptune Pisces related. So anyway, last but not least, Pluto will still be in Capricorn, so the 11th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Now at this time, now I know a lot of you don't want me to say the dreaded D word, but you know I'm going to anyway. Now in some cases this could be about the actual literal death of a stepchild. If applicable, it could be a friend or an acquaintance, somebody you felt maybe was prominent in your future. You might feel at this time that your friends and maybe your friendships and acquaintances, people you know, might be somewhat obliterated at this time, figuratively speaking, where what might be happening is you might be going to, like for example, maybe going to a different neighborhood or something, and you might feel that really any group involvement might be the same, could be obliterated this time. But at the same time, it could also be about gaining power, maybe through friendships and through groups and clubs and organizations. And remember, if something is destroyed at this time that is 11th house related, remember that Pluto is also about rebirth and regeneration. So if something goes away, a lot of times Pluto, what it can do, what it's about is supplanting at some point in time. Something can be replaced because it could be a rebirth, a revival, or even from those people that maybe you had disconnected with, where you felt that those friendships, acquaintances were destroyed at one time. They may come back as well. So anyway, and also too, there might be it might be a period where you're trying to gain power over your future, but you might be more embroiled perhaps in power struggles with friends, with acquaintances, people you know in groups, clubs, or organizations. And also be careful about dealing with perhaps coercion from people in some kind of group or club or organization and trying to force you maybe to join something that you really think are against your best interest in doing so. So anyway, well, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my Pisces November 2018 horoscope forecast. Stay tuned next time. I'm going to be starting a new series about how the zodiac signs are manipulated, and the first one is going to be I don't know if I'm going to entitle this exactly, but it's going to be about how I think Aries is manipulated. Anyway, people, two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.